What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic NBA Live Before Lock Show, the final show of the night on the YouTube channel. As you guys come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and shout out to Prize Picks, who is sponsoring our show, and also a shout out to Jacob, who is producing the show now. He is the newest member of our producing team, and the first time that I've worked with him, so I am pretty excited about it. And I was hoping that we would talk to him a little bit, but he had to mute himself, or it's just something he made up because he didn't want to talk to Neil or myself. Also, something that is very much totally possible. But Neil, what's happening? How's your weekend going?
Yeah, also working with Jacob for the first time, so also excited to have him just ignore us and not talk to us. No, it's fun to have a new producer. Things going well. I was just looking at the exposures of some pros for Davion Mitchell yesterday because man, did we blow that! I had 60% Davion Mitchell. I think I said on the show I did not imagine that he would score fewer than like 15 fantasy points. He goes up and puts up like 4.5 or something ridiculous, maybe 5. I don't know what it was, but that was a brutal night for me with the Davion Mitchell. I had a lot of Isaiah Stewart, so that kind of made up for it. And then, of course, Mo Bamba getting ejected was
Ejected.
not
Yeah,
ideal for me either.
he was going well, and then for whatever reason, he decided that he needed to run off the bench and punch Austin Rivers, which was also not ideal for me because I was overweight to the field on Davion Mitchell, but I had some live lineups that had Mo Bamba in them. And yeah, and then he was like, no, we're not having any of this. We are going out to hunt and hurt Austin Rivers, runs off the bench while Austin Rivers was playing. And yeah, it was a whole mess. So yesterday, not this late. Although the other thing too is I felt pot committed. I was like, all right, this is going poorly, but maybe it'll be like the other night where I just have a breakaway lineup. So now I'm committed to watching these lineups. No magic happened. The whole thing just sucked. I watched through all the games. Like, is this when I start winning? No, didn't happen for me yesterday. But today's gone. Today's gone fairly well. I went to been hanging out with my family today, and we got pizza from this place called DeLuca's. So there is apparently Dave Portnoy, Barstool, they do something called the Pizza Review. If you've ever heard of this,
I'm
Neil.
familiar. Yep.
And so, like, down the street from me, it's the place he's given the best ever pizza review to. And so, just because he gave it the highest score he's ever given any place, it's like a multi-million-dollar business there, and it is impossible to get pizza from. So we called it as soon as the place opened, and the first time they had available for pickup was 4:30. And then I went to get there, and they're like sold out for the day. And the line's always out the door. The place is always packed. It's insane. So that was my day, was getting pizza, basically it. And then also I did the MMA show this afternoon with Josh Harris for the UFC slate with no late swap. That's going to be tonight that I'm looking forward to. And now we get to talk about some NBA, which is just filled with news. So getting past it, we don't have to deal with any of the Kyrie shit because he's not on the main slate. That's going to be in a game that just locked. But for tonight, these are all the players that we're going to be keeping an eye out for. The reason you guys should be tuning in, not just for the next hour, but also for the 30-minute post-lock show, because I think there's going to be more news that trickles in that Neil and I are going to have to cover. Because Nikola Jokic is questionable, Trae Young is questionable, Jalen Brunson is questionable, Klay Thompson, Jalen Green, Aaron Gordon, Draymond Green, Patrick Williams. That's just some of the players that are key names that are on the injury report. It's going to change a whole bunch from us. So, Neil, I know this is something that we talk about a lot on Live Before Lock, but how much are you going to be wanting to leave roster spots open and maybe avoid the first couple of games just to make sure we have some flexibility heading into later games?
All right. So first, I got to look at what the first games are. So we've got Phoenix, Detroit. Yeah, I mean we have potentially Nikola Jokic out, so got to save. It is a bit of a priority. Just looking at the games that we have on the slate. I mean, the game's locking right at 7 o'clock. Phoenix at Detroit. I mean, it's obviously a great spot for Phoenix, so I'm going to want some Suns in my lineup. The Knicks will get the Jalen Brunson news ahead of time. So as far as lock goes, I mean, it's just going to happen naturally. I don't think I'm going out of my way to save spots for late swap, but I just don't see myself getting to a ton of these teams anyway. I guess if Jalen Brunson's out, but then you're getting value from it anyway. So I guess it's not something I'm really forcing in on this slate. Do you are you planning anything around late swap here?
So a big thing is going to be whether Jalen Brunson plays. And by the way, Neil, could you turn your mic up, or Jacob, can you turn up Neil's volume? Because I think some people are having a hard time hearing him there. So here's what I am going to be doing. If we do not get, what I hope happens is that we just find out that Jalen Brunson plays. Because if Jalen Brunson plays, then there's just not that much value in the early game, and we could kind of just focus on what's going to be happening in the later games. Because as things stand right now, I don't feel like I need to get exposure to Phoenix, Detroit. I don't feel like I need to get exposure to Clippers or the Knicks, but that is something that would change if we were to find Jalen Brunson to be out. So my hope is Brunson plays and we kind of just forego the first couple of games, and then just wait to see what happens in some of the other spots. The key news, obviously, is going to be Nikola Jokic. If he's out, it changes a whole bunch. And I'm also playing a bunch of Jokic right now. So either way, I'm going to have Jokic in there. It's going to be some flexibility if he gets ruled out. Obviously, if it gets ruled in, I'll already have him. But yeah, the first couple of games, I'm just not going to be prioritizing anything.
Yeah, I think that we are on the same page. I mean, Chris Paul is going to look pretty good in this matchup with Detroit. There are going to be some Suns we want to get to, but in general, these are not my favorite games to target anyway. So so I'm not doing anything ahead of time to prepare for late swap. Like sometimes I'll do that if there are 5 games locking in the first half hour, maybe I'll do that. But we've only got two games locking at 7:00. So, and I just don't see myself getting to a ton of those games anyway, unless Jalen Brunson is ruled out. So currently, I'm not planning on doing anything to prepare for late swap going in.
Yeah, and then it's going to be the same. So the other day, you and I were doing the show when Brunson was initially a late swap, a late scratch in that spot, and there's a little bit different pricing on the Knicks now than there was in that game. But I think we could look at just some of these players really quick and just talk about who would benefit. So we're prepared for the scenario. In the case that there is no Jalen Brunson, we got a pretty good look at what ends up happening. The Knicks start Emmanuel quickly. We see extra usage go to guys like RJ Barrett and Julius Randle. They are a little bit more expensive than they were the other day, but still, I think that these are the guys that I would be getting to in this scenario. If there is no Jalen Brunson, I'm going to be playing quickly. I know we kind of sucked in the last game, but still, by and large part, he's been very good as a starter this year. So quickly be somebody I'd be getting to. Julius Randle would become like a secondary pay up option. And then the mid range, Quentin Grimes would look better, particularly over on let me see. What's the price point? Grimes is $4,800 on DraftKings. Yeah, $4,600 on FanDuel. So especially at the slightly cheaper price on FanDuel, Grimes would look pretty good. But the main benefactor would be Emmanuel quickly in the absence of Jalen Brunson. Anything that you would see any differently, or is that kind of how you're looking at it as well?
No, yeah, I think I see it the same way as you. I mean, we're going to get some beneficiaries across the board for the Knicks, but yeah, I think we see it essentially the same. Somebody just asked if Isaiah Stewart is still in play, and that's I kind of forgot about that. That is a spot that I like at lock. Also, is if Isaiah Stewart is starting alongside Jalen Duren, I'm going to have interest in both of them, just because that probably means additional minutes for both of them. They're no longer splitting minutes, so I do think that I do have some interest in both Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren if they start together tonight.
Yeah, and you were all over that the other day. We saw Isaiah Stewart move back into the starting lineup alongside Jalen Duren, and he didn't disappoint. In fact, he had room for a lot more upside because he only shot for a big man and one who's generally somewhat efficient. We got 39 DraftKings points out of Isaiah Stewart in that kind of unexpected start, and he only shot 3 of 12 from the field with the 39 fantasy points. If he was making his normal shots from the field, would have been a crazy good game. And in 28 minutes, 16 rebounds, 6 assists. He also had a steal in there. So it was weirdly like a ceiling game that he also could have done more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you. He could have had an even bigger game. It's funny because earlier in the day I had done a Noah's advantage video, and one of my favorite bets on the day was under 10.5 rebounds for Isaiah Stewart, because it was like, well, he's only playing like 20 minutes a game now. And then of course now he's the starter and got like 14 rebounds. But tonight, if he's starting, I'm going to be hoping for that because I'm going to be playing him again. Greg, is it true that you're trying to take over my look? Larry C says you've got the flannel, you're growing in a beard now. Is this true? Are you trying to get my look going?
No, I'm trying to not freeze to death. Like that's
okay.
my main purpose right now. So last night, the heat just can't keep up in my house with the weather. It was 4 degrees in New Jersey last night. And then plus with the wind, it was like negative a ridiculous amount. Like there was places where I was seeing like negative 30, negative 40 degrees with the wind chill and stuff like that. And so when I went to bed at night and I woke up just cold in the middle of the night, it was -4 outside, and it was marginally warmer in my bedroom with the heat on and everything. But still, like I have to dress warm to stay warm in my house. And then of course, because the weather's so stupid, it's going to be 60 degrees this week. But at least for now, I'm just trying to be warm.
We're having a heat wave too, and it's like 30 degrees, which I'll take.
Yeah, and Elijah Sullivan posted it. It was -10, ended up being the actual temperature in New York last night, -40 with the wind chill.
Damn.
It's cold. It's cold, and that's why I've got full gear on here. Actually, I've got All right, so right now I just checked. I've got the temperature in my office right now. This is with all the heat on as high as it'll go. It's 63 degrees. This is with everything cranking like as high as possible. It's cold. I'm just trying to stay warm. And Neil's obviously optimized warmth.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I live in
why not
Minnesota. We're
opt?
very well insulated here, so yeah, 4 degrees here is something we can manage pretty well because our homes are very insulated. It's a little bit different when you're not quite used to this. Yeah, I was talking to my friend actually in who was it? No, it was my friend in Vermont last night. I can't remember which of my friends said that they were doing the same. Oh no, it was actually my friend in Canada. It was so cold at her place in Montreal that it was like her place maxed out at 62 degrees when she had the heat on at like 74. So yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, and the other thing too is my house. It's like a cool old house that I renovated before I moved in, but it was built in 1870, where it was also not optimized for stuff like central heating
Yep.
or it being like cold as shit outside. So that's also something that's played a factor. And I was talking about this earlier with Josh Harris, but I also have windows that are kind of drafty, but they're also really cool looking, like church style, like
Yeah.
fancy kind of handmade glass type windows. So I wanted to get them redone to be able to insulate the heat and keep it warmer. Guess what the quote was I got to get the windows redone?
$2,000.
$118,000, which I was like, all right, I
Jesus.
probably don't. Yeah. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll wait on doing that. But Jalen Brunson is available to play. So
Okay,
uh, with
good.
with Brunson available, for me, I'm just not going to prioritize much from the early games. I'm going to leave slots open and try to get exposure to the late games, give myself flexibility for if shit hits the wall, which is going to in a couple of spots.
Yeah, I mean, we'll need that starting lineup for Detroit. As I said, if we get Isaiah Stewart starting alongside Jalen Duren again, I think they're both reasonable guys that I will play some. So we've got Jalen Duren at 7% ownership. I think I'm going to try and get on top of that, particularly if Isaiah Stewart is starting, just because his minutes will be more secure. And then Isaiah Stewart back at 4,600 is going to look really good once again. If he's starting at 7% ownership, I'll try to get on top of that. So at lock, those are the players I'm prioritizing. And then on the other side of that game, also, I mean, just because Phoenix has such a great matchup with Detroit. Uh, we've got Cam Johnson back. So that's the reason that
Yeah.
Dario Sharp started yesterday. So we don't have to worry about Dario tonight. Another thing that I think we kind of got wrong. I mean, we didn't really totally poo poo him, but we were a little bit down on Dario, and then he had a pretty good game. But I think DeAndre Ayton probably in play for Phoenix. I'll probably play some Chris Paul. Um, yeah, those are the main guys that I'm interested in. But yeah, that Clippers Knicks game is probably not one I'm going to get a ton of.
Yeah, and as Larry C points out, this is why I've been playing 600 lineups as of late. We're trying to make money to pay for new windows. I want to get the pool fixed up. A lot of
Right.
reasons that I'm circumventing the max entry limit is to make more money and to trigger morons on Twitter. All of that are things that are right up in my wheelhouse. So if you guys have any questions, at me in Discord. We'll be able to answer those over the course of the show. Also, super chats, we will start getting to those right now. And I saw we had at least a couple of them that came in. First is from Ryan Nelson. Rivers is only in the league because of his daddy. So there was a point in time. Do you remember Austin Rivers was a massive prospect at one point when he was coming out of
That was
Duke?
before I followed the NBA, I think.
Okay.
Was he in the league in before 2000? I started watching in 2013. I feel like he was in the league when I first started watching basketball, but maybe I'm misremembering.
That's around when I think he came in before then, but I'm going to check right now. So Austin Rivers was at one point, yeah, he was drafted in 2012. So there was a point where he was a really serious prospect. He was also one of the top high school players in the country at one point, and I'm sure it didn't hurt that his dad was the famous Glenn Rivers, one of my least favorite coaches in the NBA. But at the same time, too, he was a good prospect in his own right. Now, why he's still sticking around, who knows at this point? I mean, you get to this point where in players' careers where they stick in the league because they've been in the league and they just call them, it's like, oh, they bring a veteran presence. I mean, I'd rather just have guys that are good at basketball and aren't fighting backups, but
Yeah.
that's where we got, especially not ones that are fucking up my DFS lineups by me not rushing them by fighting people. Two
Austin Rivers is a
slates in a
pretty
row
good
that time.
defender. I disagree that he's only in the league because of his daddy. I think that he's a pretty good defender. I think he's a solid 3-and-D guy.
Who's most likely to get ejected on tonight's slate?
Most
We've seen
likely
it.
to get.
So we've had the last couple of slates. We had fights. We had Dylan Brooks punished Donovan Mitchell in the dick. Both of them got suspended for that. Then last night we had the brawl between Austin Rivers and Mo Bamba. Who's it going to be tonight? If we just scan through these games, who's gonna get in fights and get ejected?
Trying to find where there is some animosity, and I'm struggling here.
I'm going to, is Kyrie Irving at the Nets game?
Oh, if we're counting that game,
All right. So that
I have
game's
no
not
idea if
on
he's
the
at the game.
slate. If Kyrie is on the bench, I say that he fights Jock Vaughn, the Nets coach. That's going to be my guess.
I like that. Uh, I'm not coming up with anything great here. I'm looking through, I'm scanning through the names, thinking which of these guys is going to be angry tonight, and I'm not sure that I'm finding anybody. I'll give it some thought and get back to you.
All right. We got some more super chats. This one from K2 Simple Mana. He's saying that he's getting to Isaiah Stewart. Should I be? So a couple of parts here. Number one is if you have him in your player pool, or if you only have one lineup and you're playing him, I don't think that's problematic as of now, but make sure that he's starting. If he's not starting, you don't want to play him. I think he is going to start. He started the majority of the games this year. He missed the game due to an injury, came back, came off the bench for a few games, was back in the starting lineup last game. If he is starting, play him. If he's not starting, don't play him. I assume that's probably more or less your thoughts.
Yep, exactly right. And they won last night, so maybe that's makes it a little bit more likely that he starts.
Or maybe not, because
maybe not. That's a good point.
Yeah, it's
got
the Detroit Pistons,
Victor.
and we are. By the way, this season's gone really fast. We're over 50 games into the season at this point. Like we're 60-ish% done or something like that. But yeah, the Pistons are definitely a team that are positioned to try to lose at this point. So K2 Simple Mana, just recap there. If he starts and you have exposure to him, all is good. If he's coming off the bench, I would take him out of your lineup. Next super chat is from Corey Shea. Eubanks or Watford? I have 100% of Christian Watford, which he spells Waterford, but either way, I'm fairly sure that's who he means, is Christian Watford. So
Tristan Watford.
Oh, Tristan, sorry. We both fucked that one up, didn't we? And it's also Trendon Watford.
Is it Trendon?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. You're right.
Yeah. So, all three of us got that wrong in different ways, which is impressive in its own way.
That's really funny. Yeah, I'm playing both of them. So I made a rule in Fantasy Cruncher to not have them in the same lineup. I think there's some variability there, and there's some we can't really predict what the minutes are going to be between the two. I think that makes both of them good GPP plays. If you're just playing one lineup, I'd probably go with Eubanks. I think Eubanks is the more likely to get bigger minutes, the lion's share of the minutes. But I think they're both in play. They're both going to be in my player pool tonight.
And we just got some news from the Bulls. By the way, my answer is, of the two, for the price, I prefer Watford. So Watford, who has been, his name has been butchered in multiple different ways. Apologies to the Watford family. So I prefer Watford to Eubanks. I have them projected really similarly, but a couple of things that go in Watford's favor. Number one, he's cheaper. Number two, better positionality. He is eligibility at power forward and center, whereas Eubanks only center. Although I don't know if I can't remember if Corey usually asks us questions related to FanDuel or DraftKings. So that's my DraftKings answer. For FanDuel, it's funny. By the way, the answer is still Watford over on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, Watford is power forward center and Eubanks is only center. Over on FanDuel, though, Watford is power forward only, and Eubanks is center and power forward eligible. But either way, I get to more of Watford on both sites. And that's going to be my lean there. I like the salary savings that he brings. So that is going to be the way I go. But if he's only playing one of them in any one given lineup and salary is not an issue, would you say Eubanks or Watford if we didn't have to consider salary or position or anything?
Oh, yeah. So we have, I think I said Eubanks previously. I think I'll stick with Eubanks. I think that he's the likeliest to get there. But we have Eubanks at 14% ownership, Watford at, where is he?
So Watford
24%. Yeah. So I'd prefer at those levels, I'd prefer Eubanks. I think people are going to Watford. I think he played more minutes yesterday, in part because Drew Eubanks was in foul trouble. Mm-hmm. So I think given the more ownership going to Watford, I'm a little bit more inclined to go to Eubanks.
And by the way, FanDuel also a little more popularity towards Watford, where we have on FanDuel, Watford is projected for 17% ownership. Eubanks projected for 8% ownership on FanDuel, although also Eubanks is $4,800 on FanDuel, which is a little bit different than his DK price tag. Now let's hit on some news that just came through. So we have an update from the Chicago Bulls. Alex Caruso is out. Patrick Williams is in. Nikola Vucevic in. He was probable, so no real surprise there. But Caruso and Patrick Williams were both questionable. Williams is now going to play. Alex Caruso ruled out. Let me look at what we have in terms of the depth chart here for the Bulls, because we've got Javonte Green is still out, but DeSunmu and Kobe White are both going to be active. What are their salaries
And
on
Dragic. So we've got Caruso, or sorry, we've got DeSunmu at 4,200, Kobe White 3,700, Goran Dragic at 3,200.
I don't think it's going to make any of these guys a priority, especially because we still have all of them active. Caruso being out does open up extra minutes, but I don't think that automatically means they all go to Dragic or all go to Kobe White or they all go to DeSunmu. DeSunmu would be my favorite of those players, but once again, I presume there's going to be more and better value that opens up as more of this news trickles in. And we'll be getting updates on this, fairly shortly in terms of projection and whatnot, but I don't expect anybody's going to be really popping based on this news. Anything that you have to add to Alex Caruso being rolled out for the Bulls, other than that, we are contractually obligated to talk about Alex Caruso whenever he's on the injury report.
Yeah, I hope that I hope Alex gets better soon. We need him for the projections team. Maybe he's taking the night off just so he can really make our projections great. I hope that he has a good idea of who's going to play. Honestly, I'm going to wait until we get a projections update and maybe the starting lineup before I really make a call here. If Dragic starts, obviously you're going to want to play Dragic at 3,200. I would say, but if it is DeSunmu, I'll have some interest in whoever the starter is at point guard for the Bulls. I don't know that it's not going to be a spot where I'm playing like 50% of them, jamming them into my lineup, but I will have some interest.
Yeah, and I expect the starting lineup for the Bulls to be DeSunmu, Levine, DeRozan, Patrick Williams, and Vooch. I feel pretty good if that is going to be the starting five. And also, Caruso doesn't typically start, so it's not going to change the starting lineup, but I mean, DeSunmu could play, a couple extra minutes.
Okay. I was thinking that Caruso had been starting, but
he was earlier in the year.
Okay.
He was earlier in the year, and they removed him from the starting lineup. I'm trying to remember what it was that got him out of the starting lineup. I think he might have just been hurt at one point. They're playing like fairly decently without him, and they just kind of stuck with it, something along those lines. But either way, we're looking at like 22-ish minutes to replace. So something that, once again, could add a couple extra minutes to a couple guys, but nothing that's going to be totally earth-shattering. The next super chat is from Sig Homie Cow. Won 10K 3 days ago because of your chat. The Homie Cow, we number one, we appreciate the super chat. Also, congrats. That's awesome. It's always good to see when people watch the shows, consume our content, win some money. It's always nice. And if you guys want to sign up for any of the tools that we have over at Stokastic.com, there's a bunch of ways that you could do it for, pretty cheap prices. First of all, we do right now have the deal where any package you sign up for the first time using the link we have below, it's going to get you 50% off. And that could apply to anything. If you just want an NBA package, if you want a Stokastic Plus Platinum package, that'll be 50% off. You just want the lineup generator. You guys want to check that out. The easiest way to build lineups that we have over at Stokastic.com. Check out the lineup generator. It's less than $10 a week. It's going to build lineups for you. And it's all based on our simulations. It's spitting out lineups that we're projecting to be plus EV. And then also right from there, you could upload them right to DraftKings, right to FanDuel, and enter any lineups with those. So once again, the Homie Cow, congrats. Always good to see people with big hits. And hopefully we have another one today.
For sure. I just want to say, Michael McKinney, you've said multiple times now that we missed your super chat.
I've got it's next on my queue.
Oh, you've got it. Okay.
Yeah. So, Michael, I've got your super chat lined up next, just going through the list of the ones in front of me. And he's asking his normal question. Who are the top 5 plays that we like for FanDuel cash games? Michael McKinney always likes to know who the top 5 options are for FanDuel cash. And right now, let me look through the lineups that I ran for FanDuel. So at the moment, and a little subject to change based on what ends up happening with players like Jokic being questionable and what ends up happening with Trae Young. But at least as of now, I think the focus of a lot of cash game lineups should really be built around the Mavericks. And the reason being the Mavericks is because of all the players who we're uncertain about, we do know for sure that Luka Doncic is out. So the Mavericks are going to be a preeminent situation to target for value. And these are some of the players I'm getting to the most. Like actually a lot of players from the Mavericks I would consider really high priority cash games on FanDuel. Tim Hardaway Jr., Spencer Dinwiddie, Josh Green, Dwight Powell. I would play all 4 of those guys in a cash game today. I think all of them are players we should get to. And then another one, Gabe Vincent. really cheap for the Heat. We've got Kyle Lowry being ruled out. And by the way, this is just a coincidence, but I thought it was funny. Anyone I was looking through. And Victor Oladipo was just ruled out as well. So no Oladipo and no Kyle Lowry. That should open up a lot of extra playing time for Gabe Vincent, who's also now available to play. Is basically anybody who's connected in a potential trade to Kyrie Irving was listed as questionable today.
Yeah.
It's a total coincidence. It's not indicative of anything, but people were kind of going nuts about it. So I was kind of making some jokes about it online. But the absences of those guys of Luka from the Mavericks makes Powell, Green, Dinwiddie, Hardaway, all players I think you should be playing in FanDuel cash, as well as Gabe Vincent. And then as far as pay up options go, you could go a number of different ways. But right now on FanDuel, the pay ups that I got to the most were SGA and DeMar DeRozan. Are there any players you look at as being like must have for a FanDuel cash?
So I haven't really looked at FanDuel. I agree with you. You can do for a cash game. 4 is definitely viable. I know I've said multiple times. I set my cap at 3 for GPPs, but in a cash game, I think you're right. You play 4, those 4 Mavs all make sense. Gabe Vincent, now that he's available, certainly makes sense. I would guess that there's other Miami Heat players that you want to play. Now they have 9 guys in their rotation, I believe, tonight, and 2 of them are going to be the backup centers, playing a total of about 12 minutes. I watched the strategy show this morning. Adam went over it pretty well. So I think those Heat guys, there's going to be a lot of minutes to go around for not that many Heat guys. So probably a Harrow or a Butler, but I haven't looked at FanDuel. So I think that your analysis is probably sounds like it's spot on.
The next super chat, it's from Hippopotamus. Will we finally get a Greg and Butler fight tonight? It'd be a better main event than Sergey Spivak and Derek Lewis. But like we said before, Jimmy Butler continues to duck me. He responds to none of my messages on Twitter when I challenge him to fights. What does that mean? You guys decide. I think he's ducking me.
He's clearly ducking you.
Yeah, absolutely. Corey Shea also followed up. Always DK. Either way, the answer was is Trendon Watford for me on both sites. Neil had a little bit of a lean towards Drew Eubanks. But I'll compartmentalize that, Corey. So I know going forward, keeping that in the back of my mind. Any questions you ask, I'm going to remember. DraftKings going forward. Corey Shea, another follow-up. He's asking for DraftKings. I know this now. The top two power forward or small forward, 4,600 and under for DK. So who are our 2 favorite forwards for $4,600 and less on DraftKings, Neil?
All right, 1 second. 4,600 or less.
I'm sorting right now. Just going.
Josh Green looks great. He's 4,000. Isaiah Stewart is going to be one of my favorites. I really like him if he is assuming he's starting. So Josh Green would be number 1. Isaiah Stewart right there for me at 4,600. Max Strus looks good, 3,800.
It's really hard to get away from Josh Green.
Yeah.
Just for, I mean, actually both these guys. So the 2 I get the most exposure to here are Max Strus and Josh Green. Josh Green's really, really chalky today. I think it's warranted. I know we said that last night against about Davion Mitchell, but sticking to it this time. Chalky, but warranted when it comes to Josh Green. Just talked about it before. There's no Luka Doncic for the Mavericks. That is so much usage. It's so much playmaking. It is so many minutes to fill. Josh Green figures to pick up a lot of the slack. So the field's playing him in about a third of the lineups. I think that's totally reasonable. The other one, Max Strus. I'm surprised Strus is not more popular. Projected for under 20% ownership, considering all the players that are out for Miami. We've seen him step up and play bigger roles when they've been shorthanded before. So not necessarily the 2 guys that I've projected for the most total fantasy points, 4,600 and below, but those are the 2 guys that I think are the best overall points per dollar plays south of $4,600 at the forward spot on DraftKings. So Corey, I think those are 2 guys that you should have as part of your player pool today. The next question is from Ace of Spade. Dinwiddie or Giddey for DK tier. So usually this would be Josh Giddey all day. The reason that today we've got a little bit more decisions to make is because obviously Luka being out for the Dallas Mavericks, it does change some stuff. But Giddey or Dinwiddie, which way are we leaning? I think this is really close, by the way. But for tiers, so keep in mind tiers, position doesn't matter. There's no price. It's just who do we expect to score more fantasy points? And
it's Dinwiddie for me. He just projects much better. We've got Giddey projecting for 38, 39 fantasy points. We've got Dinwiddie projecting for 46 fantasy points. So for me, it's maybe you want to factor in ownership some, like maybe everybody's going to Dinwiddie, but I would guess that a lot of people are still going to go to Giddey just because they're used to him being more expensive, the better fantasy player. But here, I mean, we've got a 7-point better projection for Dinwiddie, so that would be my preference.
Yep, same for me. And once again, it's just Luka's out, and it's so much fun. So I'm going to really quickly here.
And it's a great matchup. One of the fastest paced team in the league.
Let's see, what do we have for the current pace?
Yeah, fastest pace in the league. 103.25 possessions per game for the Warriors. Number 2 is the Lakers at 102.18.
Yeah, the biggest concern out of here is just, does the game turn into a blowout without Luka playing? But 9.5 points, it's not like we're looking at a 15 or 16 point spread. It's still a game that we'd expect to be somewhat competitive down the stretch of the game. And once again, I'm going to pull up Dallas's numbers this year with Luka off the court. And something else to add also is that in some of these spots where Luka's been out, we've seen Dinwiddie will play like 40 plus minutes. They even do that with Luka in sometimes. They play Dinwiddie all those minutes. But yeah, here are the numbers for Dinwiddie on the year. Per 36 minutes, 30.2% usage rate, 43.47 DraftKings points per 36 minutes, and 41.95 FanDuel points per 36 minutes. And like I said, you could see 40 plus out of Dinwiddie today. So I know that Dinwiddie is a little more expensive than we typically see him, but it is more than warranted, in my opinion, with Luke out today. So I'm with you, Neil. Ace of Spade, your Dinwiddie versus Giddey question for DK tiers. It looks like both Neil and I are going to be leaning towards Spencer Dinwiddie. We've got Darren and sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that. So I see that Klay Thompson was ruled in. I thought we had more news coming for the Warriors, but we at least know that Klay is playing.
Yeah, so Klay is in, and the rest of the injury report. Let's see if anything else. I mean, we still got Draymond questionable, but no updates on him. We had Steph Curry. Steph Curry was probable. Klay Thompson was questionable. Draymond Green was questionable. So just waiting on Draymond news. Yeah. I don't really have any concern about Curry playing or not, considering he was probable, but we are still going to be waiting on a Draymond Green update. The next question, Darren Anderson, can you play Randall at center to go contrarian? I wouldn't today for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're locking in an early lineup spot. I'd rather have the flexibility. And number two, Brunson's playing. So could you get a ceiling game out of Randall? Perhaps, but I really prefer to have the flexibility. But what are you going to be doing with Randall?
Yeah, it's not my favorite spot to go to. I just think that we have so many players who project really well towards the top that it's just not my favorite spot on the board. I think that it's fine. Like if you're playing 20 lineups, you want to throw Randall in there in one. I'm currently my latest grunt, so I'm playing 75 lineups tonight. I think I've got Randall in 2.6% of them. He projects well enough to get into some lineups. If I were making one lineup, probably not the first place that I go. But yeah, he's somebody that it's fine to play him, just not one of my favorite spots.
Paul Akizi saying Jimmy Butler is 6'7", 230 pounds. He would wash you, Greg.
Ooh,
wow, whoa.
All right,
Paul. So there we got one person who's backing Jimmy Butler and Paul Akizi here. Yeah, but you know what I've got? I've got an autoimmune disease. I've also got heart, and I also have very fair skin, and I burn easily in the sun. What now? What is Jimmy Butler going to do to me now? What is he going to do once he knows that information? He's getting fucked up.
It's got nothing on you, Greg.
Absolutely nothing. John Bryant, top 5 plays on DK. So let's oh, by the way, this is also for tomorrow, but De'Aaron Fox ruled out in advance of tomorrow's game. Let's go through some of the top plays on DraftKings right now. And while we are still waiting on some injury information, I think we can just kind of run position by position, Neil, like we normally do, because I don't think we're getting any of this other news before lock. I think we're kind of working with what we're working with here. And we'll kind of go through, as of right now, these are the players that we are getting the most exposure to. So for me at point guard, it is Gabe Vincent and Spencer Dinwiddie. Who are the point guards you're getting to most often?
Yep, Spencer Dinwiddie, Gabe Vincent. I will say I really like Shea tonight, just because he's had back-to-back really inefficient nights, and now he's still got a great matchup with Houston. So I kind of want to go over the field on Shea, but he is currently 6th on my list behind Knicks and Harrow. So, but I'm going to be well above the field there. But yeah, it's Dinwiddie and Gabe Vincent at the top.
And then shooting guard, we've also got Dinwiddie with shooting guard eligibility, and then Gabe Vincent as well. But Max Strus, another one we talked about before. And, I know that he's picking up some ownership. It's not like he's unowned, but I think he should be more popular. So Max Strus for me at shooting guard. For yourself, Neil, who else are the top shooting guards for you?
Yeah, so as you said, we got Dinwiddie and Vincent again. I currently I have a lot of Dacian Nix. I think I'm actually going to cut back a little bit there at least. He scares me a little bit. Of course, if Jalen Green is out again, I think Jalen Green is questionable, right? We have some that's a team that we're waiting on some news. So that'll have some impact on how much interest I have there. But currently getting a good amount of Dacian Nix, and then Harrow, Max Struess, and then also Josh Christopher, another guy who, depending on who's available, I'm going to have some interest in there.
If we move over to the small forwards, so the small forwards that I'm getting to most often is like on Max Strus' small forward eligibility, but then Josh Green and Tim Hardaway Jr. And once again, it's just we've got all this value in the absence of Luka Doncic, Josh Green, Tim Hardaway Jr. A couple guys that I like there. For you at small forward, who are the guys you consider to be the top options?
Yeah, so currently it's Tim Hardaway, Josh Green for me, and then Max Struess are my top three.
Power forward, I'm getting to, it's funny actually. My two most rostered power forwards. Guess one of the guys who's on this list right here.
I'm guessing it's your fight mate, Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler's one of them for me, and then Giannis Antetokounmpo. So Butler's underpriced today, particularly on DraftKings. It's $7,400, and I kind of like this matchup from this standpoint. It's the Heat, and I should have answered this before. I fucked up when I was trying to say who I think is most likely to be ejected. I should have said Jimmy Butler for getting into a fight, but clearly missed opportunity by me. But the Bucks and Heat, they have a little bit of a rivalry between them, dating back to their matchup in the playoffs from 3 or 4 years ago. But here's what the significance of that is. It's not for me to come out and say like, oh, because we talked about this yesterday. Also, you, myself, and Mike Postlock about players, trying harder or anything like that. That's not the case. But I do think this in some of these premier regular season matchups, you will see teams more apt to give their key players bigger minutes, which is why two of my favorite spend up options on the slate are Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jimmy Butler. I'm going to get to my other one when we get to center, Nikola Jokic. There's a couple of reasons for that. But Giannis and Butler are two players that I do like, and I like having them in the same lineups for a little bit of correlation if the game becomes a shootout.
Yeah, I like that call. Those are two of my top four there. I have Trendon Watford, so I said that I like Drew Eubanks better. I'm also still playing a good amount of Trendon Watford, and then Isaiah Stewart is in there for me as well. Who we did just get some more news. We have Isaiah Stewart starting
Yes.
again. We did also just see that Jalen Green is likely to play today, so
Yeah.
that maybe hurts the potential opening up more value for the Rockets. We're not going to see that apparently.
Yes. So Jalen Green is going to be returning to the lineup. I guess one thing we should talk about, though, is do we want to play Jalen Green at all? We'll finish
Yeah.
up this super chat first, but that is something we'll hit on right after we get to the rest of this. But centers for me, I like Jokic a lot for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's questionable, which I mean is going to, I think, should suppress his ownership a little bit in tournaments. But also, if he's ruled out, I just want the flexibility to make as many swaps as possible. And we have, a couple of key players that are questionable in that game. So this is the last game of the entire slate. Jokic is questionable. In addition to that, we have Trae Young being questionable. And I just think the ability to have some exposure to that game, just in the case that a couple of these guys are ruled out, either Trae Young or Nikola Jokic, I want to be able to get to the value that other people might not have the flexibility to swap on. The easiest way for me to do that is getting Jokic exposure right now. So Jokic is my most rostered center. Are you playing him right now very much, or is somebody else a higher priority for you at center?
Currently, Jokic is my number two. I've got 32%. Currently, I have 50% BAM. I will be adjusting my lineups throughout the night, but currently those are my top two, followed by Watford. I don't have much Eubanks right now, so I'm going to be increasing my Eubanks exposure because I do have interest there.
And now let's talk about the news we just got, which is that Jalen Green is going to be in. So if you look at the Houston Rockets right now, while Jalen Green is in, it's still a team that's shorthanded because Kevin Porter Jr. remains out due to an injury. Now we haven't heard any word that Jalen Green is going to be restricted in any kind of way. But considering how little the Rockets are playing for, my feeling is that they wouldn't be playing him unless he was 100% with no issue. So I'm not expecting any kind of minutes restriction. Kevin Porter Jr. is out. Eric Gordon is resting. Jayshawn Tate is resting. Obviously, that is a much less significant piece relative to the other ones. Is Jalen Green somebody that you are going to be looking at in large field tournaments to play now that he's confirmed in?
Yeah, so definitely I'm going to play some Jalen Green. The question is how much. I'm currently looking at figuring out exactly my level of interest with Gordon, Porter, and Jayshawn Tate out. But I think I'm going to have a lot of interest in Jalen Green just because he's going to come in fairly low owned, and I really like the game environment. I mean, this when you can play the Rockets and Thunder against each other, I just think that that's a game environment that could have potential for a lot of fantasy points. So I am going to have interest in some Jalen Green. Okay, so he doesn't actually see a huge boost. Actually, 4.5% usage boost with those three guys off. Hasn't really amounted to much in terms of fantasy points so far, but it's a pretty good usage boost. How many minutes is that? That's in where is he? 189 minutes. So 33% usage in those 189 minutes with those three guys off. So that's definitely fairly interesting. I like the price. I think he's going to be very involved. So I do have interest in Jalen Green. How much interest do you have?
So I think one of the issues I'm going to have with Jalen Green, just some kind of looking through this team, is the price is now up to $7,500 on DraftKings. I would like him better on FanDuel. FanDuel is only 6,900. FanDuel is where I think he really stands out. DraftKings, to me, the price is fair-ish, right? It's in the neighborhood of fair. 6,900 is like $600-$700 too cheap over on FanDuel. So really like him there. For DraftKings, though, I just think there's other guys I'm going to like more than him. Like, for instance, Spencer Dinwiddie is $400 less expensive. There's also a bunch of cheaper guys we like, and I don't think he's going to really make the cut for me. Like, he's more expensive than Jimmy Butler on DraftKings, and we all know, like, I love Jimmy Butler, right? So I'm going to play Jimmy Butler before I'm playing Jalen Green. There's just other guys in the price range I prefer.
Yep, that's fair. I'm gonna get to some. He's not gonna become like a 30%, 40% of my lineup type player, I don't think. But definitely gonna try to be, if the field is gonna play 1%, which maybe that is going to adjust now that he's no longer got the Q tag. But if the field's gonna be low on him, I'm definitely gonna want to be above the field, at least on Jalen Green.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. I do assume that his ownership is going to come up a little bit just
Yeah.
because, when you get the questionable tag on players and then they gets lifted, people are more apt to play them than if they were just the same questionable heading into lock. So I do think his ownership probably ends up closer to 10% than
Yeah.
the current number it's at, but that's just a guess. That's very it's very non-scientific. I'm not running algorithms like the smart guys we have behind the scenes. I'm just sitting here with my
Right.
thumb on my ass and be like, this feels like 10%. So that's what I'm gonna guess. He's gonna come in somewhere around 10%.
That sounds about right. Can I address something just because I think that it's a relevant topic, and also we got an in the Discord from my friend Richie Green, who now does some work at Stokastic. I spent a good amount of time with he likes to be called Rich, but his username is Richie. I spent a good amount of time with him in Arizona last year. He asked us, what are your thoughts on Kobe White pivot off Gabe Vincent now that Caruso is out? So just I'm seeing that we do have our projections updated. We are projecting Kobe White for 29 minutes, and he's 3,700. I'm currently getting to 13% Kobe White. I think that he's certainly in play for me tonight. Do you think you're going to play any? We actually have him with a better projection than Desunmo currently, and he's cheaper. So I'll be going to some Kobe White, I think.
Yeah, so Kobe White is the better fantasy player as far as a points per minute basis goes, but I think also Dosunmu is going to play more minutes. Let me circle back on.
We're projecting them right. We're projecting Dosunmu for 28.39, Kobe White for 28.85. So, I mean, if you think that's wrong, then maybe you want to prioritize Dosunmu. I think that there's a pretty good chance that we see Kobe White just take on more minutes, take on those Caruso minutes. So, I mean, it'll be spread out most likely among those three, but
the way that he's looking at it, though, is what do we think of him as a pivot off of Gabe Vincent, right? And if you're talking large field tournaments, Rich, I think it depends where people are talking, right? For cash games, Gabe Vincent is still going to be the guy, but talking pivots, he means tournaments here. I don't think it's a bad pivot to make. I think you go to Kobe White in some lineups over Gabe Vincent. I'm going to play more Gabe Vincent, like on the whole.
Oh, for sure.
But I think having some lineups that are Kobe White instead is sensible.
Yep. Agreed.
The next super chat we have here is from Corey Shea. I'm getting chalky today, gentlemen. Top 2 pay up, 9K up, low owned, top 2 mid range, low owned, 6K up, and top 2 cheap options. All right. So, who are the 2 pay up options that you like getting to that are not all that popular? One of them for me is Jokic, and I just don't think he's going to be all that popular heading into lock as being questionable.
Yeah, so guys that are not getting much ownership. So I mean, I said that I like Shea, but we're projecting for 18% ownership. So the ownership is actually we're expecting it to be there, which kind of bums me out a little bit. But yeah, just looking at the most expensive guys, who's not getting much ownership. Uh we got Curry at 6%. I think Curry is okay. Um Honestly, it's a tough question at the high end. I like Şengün at 5%. Again, I like that game of art. Yeah, I think that's probably my answer. Şengün is 9,100. He just failed us at chalk a couple days ago, coming in at under 5% ownership. Yeah, I think Şengün is probably my guy at 5% ownership.
Yeah, and I mean, we do have positive leverage right now on Jokic. He's projected for 15. But once again, I think there's a chance that's just going to be lower as we get closer to lock. But 15% ownership on Jokic on a slate where we have a ton of value. I do like that kind of proposition. So for me, Jokic is going to be the one that I like the best in the high range. Then the mid range. So talking about at least for him, 6K and up. Who do we like as a not crazy popular option in the 6K range? For me, that answer is going to be Klay Thompson.
The 6K range. Yeah, I'll have some Clay. As far as not popular guys, man, it's I'm finding that I'm eating a lot of chalk here tonight.
And
Let's see if I
Draymond
can find
expected to play, by the way.
Draymond expected to play. Um, Nobody's honestly standing out to me in the 6K range. I'm currently not getting to a ton of anybody. I'm getting to, Tyler Hero above, but I'm not really playing a ton of anybody in that 6K range. I mean, Aaron Gordon, you could play some Aaron Gordon with the hopes that Jokic is ruled out, but he's also questionable, so it's a little bit tough to really count on that. Uh, I think actually maybe Aaron Gordon is more likely to sit than Jokic would be my guess. So that's not the strongest play. Yeah, I don't have a strong play in the mid range, I guess is what I'm realizing. I don't have anybody that I'm playing a ton of.
And then the final part of his question is who's your favorite contrarian punt option? So talking about somebody, say sub 4K, that 3K range, who is the player in that kind of salary range that we like the most to be contrarian? I think Rich brought up a fairly decent point there about looking to Kobe White as a pivot. Let's see who else though. Yeah.
So I like I guess Eubanks is up to 14% order. I'm currently getting a ton of Dacian Nix. He's 3,700. We're projecting for just 6% ownership. He is in that game environment that I like, that I really like, that Houston at OKC game. I might cut back a little. Currently, I'm getting to 38%. I don't think I want that much of Nix, but I think that he's definitely somebody that you can consider in that punt range as well.
I have him in about 20% of my lineups, and
That's
that's
probably
still,
about where I want to be.
yeah,
Well above
I
the
mean,
field.
it's well overweight to the field, so that's going to be my answer.
Can I throw out one more thing? So I'm
Mhm.
sort of interested in playing some Vukovic tonight.
Yep.
I know that he likes playing against smaller centers. Eubanks is 6'10, so not like really small, but he also might maybe Eubanks off the floor some, get some Trenton Watford. How big is Trenton Watford? I actually don't know how tall Trenton Watford is. So maybe he's a bigger guy than I realized, but
The
uh
problem, but how tall is Tristan Waterford? Right.
right,
That's
Tristan Waterford. Yeah. So Trenton Watford, 6'8". If Vucevic gets to play some against Watford, I'm going to really like him. He's said in the past that he likes playing against smaller centers. Like he just beats up on smaller centers. So if he gets
he's a
minutes with,
bully.
he's a bully. And he's backed it up. So since I heard that quote, I've started playing him, and he really does do well pretty consistently against smaller centers. So I think that Vucevic is a guy that at the top end who's pretty contrarian that I'm going to try to prioritize a little bit.
I think it's funny how because of how big he is, him playing against somebody who's 6'8" is the equivalent of like us
I
playing
know.
against a middle schooler. Right.
Yeah.
Like that's like the trade off because he's a gigantic human being. So he looks at somebody 6'8" and he's like, that's a midget. That's somebody who's really tiny. So it's definitely just a matter of perspective because how tall is Vooch 7'1",
That'd be my
7 foot?
guess, right around there.
And I know he's pretty
He's
big
6'10
too.
himself. Okay, I thought he was taller than
Uh,
that, to be honest. Um, yeah, but if he's playing against Watford, I think Watford definitely qualifies as a smaller center. Eubanks not as much if they're the same height, but I like it.
Next super chat, Corey Shea. Too many people in here for the amount of likes. Yeah, if you guys haven't liked the video, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Slate is locking in 10 minutes, but we are not going to be going anywhere. So post lock show, Neil and I are going to be talking a little bit about Prize Picks. We'll be looking at Bet Pro, our new prop betting tool over at Stokastic.com. And if you guys haven't signed up at Prize Picks yet, super easy way for you guys to get free access to the tools we have over at Stokastic.com. Because when you sign up using our link, you're going to get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. And also, you are going to get up to a $100 deposit bonus over at Prize Picks. So if you guys haven't signed up for Prize Picks yet and you've been on the fence considering it, reasons to get in the door: $100 bonus. And then also, you're going to get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Ace of Spade, Anthony Simons, or RJ Barrett for DK tiers. That is Anthony Simons for me.
Who was the question?
Anthony Simons or RJ Barrett for DK tiers.
Yeah, I think it's probably Simons for me too.
All right. The next question is from Daniel Buffington. I have $7,300 left. Bridges or Hero? That is Hero for me.
Yep, for sure.
I have Hero projected better. Also, later start time. I always like the flexibility. Can you make a case for an unowned Zubats? Adams boy. I can't today, unfortunately. This is not a Zubat slate for me.
I don't want to play a ton. I think you can definitely make. I mean, Zubats is a guy. The reason that he's Adam's guy or Eric's guy, as you told me the other night, is that he's just got a wide range of outcomes. Like any given night, Zubats is live to put up a big game. I'm going to try and get a few shares of Zubats in my 75 lineups. That's a good call out. I don't know that I have any right now because he doesn't project that well just because he doesn't happen all that often. But you know that Zubats has like a 45-point game in his range of outcomes. There are a number of centers that I like tonight, which is why it's hard to really prioritize him. Like some nights when I really don't like the center options, that's when I'm like, well, I'll take my shots on Zubats. Tonight is not one of those, but he's at 5,200 right now, 2.6% ownership. I do think that he is a solid play. So I'm going to try and get above that 2.6%. But you know, I'm not going crazy with my Zubats tonight.
If he wasn't in the early start time, I think I'd be more apt to maybe take shots on him. But it's that early start time. I really do prefer trying to leave myself roster spots open. Zachary Ariskelian wants to know Vooch, Aiton, or Şengün for a FanDuel tournament. Let's see. Of those three,
what are the prices on them?
Yeah. So I assume that this is pricing agnostic because he's just mentioned all of them.
Yeah.
And that is Şengün for me.
Yeah. It's probably Şengün for me too. I would rule out Aiton there. Is probably between Şengün and Vučković for me.
Yeah, Şengün. And also, once again, all else being equal, give me the guy who starts in the latest start time, and that is Şengün there. Let me just check to make sure there were no super chats left. There are not. Let's bang out some of these Discord questions. Steph Curry remains probable to play today. And now questions that we got in the Discord. We've got Big Dream. How strong of a pivot off of Hero is Jalen Green if he plays? Well, Jalen Green, now we do know that he's in. I prefer Hero still, though.
Yeah, so I'm going to play more of Hero than Jalen Green. I think that he's a strong pivot in a large field GPP, but yeah, I still prefer Hero.
Miami High Life, Giannis, Watford, and Knicks, or Butler, Hero, and Powell. I have more exposure to the Butler, Hero, and Powell combination.
I do too.
Moddub T, what are your guys' favorite cash game plays on DK outside of the Dallas players? All right, so outside of the Dallas players, I think we're looking at a lot of the Heat players. So one that you absolutely have to play in cash games on DK is Gabe Vincent. He's projected for a ton of ownership, as is Spencer Dinwiddie, but that is certainly warranted as well. The two guys that I would say are the highest priorities for me for a DK cash game outside of the Dallas players would be Jimmy Butler and Gabe Vincent.
Yep. So I don't play cash, but it would be the guys that I'm getting to the most of, most likely. So I agree with that. Those are the two players outside of the Mavs, Gabe Vincent, Jimmy Butler, the guys I'm getting to the most of. I think they're pretty good cash plays.
Lippy, thoughts on Bam? He's currently my second most rostered center behind Nikola Jokic. And I think I remember Neil saying he was his third most rostered, if I remember correctly.
He's actually, I think he was my first. He is now my second behind Jokic as well, based on, I haven't changed either of their projections, but based on some other things I've changed, now I have more. But yeah, I like him quite a bit.
The next question we have here is from Opposite X. So he wants to know $5,300 for utility on DraftKings. Who is our favorite in that price range? So $5,300. So just unfortunately $100 too expensive there for Tim Hardaway. The one I've projected the best in that price range is Josh Hart. He's been dog shit lately. But that's who I have projected best there.
Yep. I also have Josh Hart, the highest projected.
Yeah. So Josh Hart, that is going to be our answer there, opposite EXO. Just double check to make sure no super chats came in while I was looking at Discord. We've got all those covered right now. Lippy, thoughts on Isaiah Stewart? Isaiah Stewart, now that he's confirmed starting, very much playable in tournaments.
Yep.
And then we got another question from Lippy. How many Heat are too many in your lineups? I'm getting to 5 on DK. I think 5 is too many considering the prices.
Agreed. And I set my limit at 3. I'm setting my limit at 3 tonight. I think 4 is fine if you want to set your limit at 4. But it's 3 or 4 is too many, is the max that I would do.
And once again, it depends which 4.
Yep.
Like Gabe Vincent and Max Strus are $35 and $3,800 on DraftKings. It's totally different having Gabe Vincent and Max Strus as 2 of those options than if it's like Butler, Hero, and Adebayo all in there. So as long as you got 2 of them are being really cheap, you can make a case for 4. 5 is too much, though. I would not go 5. Ernie P, did you say that you have 100% Watford? I did not say that. Somebody in left a super chat saying they did. I do not have anywhere near 100% of Trent and Watford.
Yeah.
Swaz, Beef Stew or Dwight Powell on FanDuel. He says he's leaning towards Stewart. I think I prefer Dwight Powell. Let me double check that, though. Stewart or Powell. That for me is, and by the way, this is Dwight Powell. Well, this is really close, but I'm going to lean Dwight Powell. I prefer a little bit to Stewart.
Again, not playing FanDuel. I don't have a strong preference though. If they're the same price, I think they're pretty
very
close there. It would maybe come down to ownership. I'm currently getting a more Stewart than Powell on DraftKings, but I think I'm going to boost up my Powell a little bit. I think that I, in getting more Stewart, I might have lost some of my Powell, so that might be something I want to fix.
Yeah. So once again, very close. I think they're both good options too. You could go either way, but once again, I always lean on this. If you're in between 2 guys and it's really close, go with the later start time for more flexibility. That to me is the tiebreaker there. Dwight Powell. Tall Tale, is it crazy to have 43% DeJounte for now on DK just in case Trey sets? No, if you did it the other day, you crushed. What did Murray finish without Trey Young? Like 70 fantasy points or something like that? He went berserk, and he's a much better fantasy player without Trey Young than he's with Trey Young. If that's a stand you want to take, I think that's totally acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. I did that the other night, and I think once again it's a similar spot. There's more value on this slate, so it's not as much of a priority for me, but definitely I think that's something you can consider doing.
Lippy, thoughts on CP3 for DK? I didn't play a lot of Chris Paul, and it's a good spot for him. Devin Booker's still out, so the price it's gone up, but it's not terrible at $8,500, I believe, off the top of my head. But still, there's a lot of good guard options. There's a lot of good cheaper guard options as well. Dinwiddie, Vincent, both being chalk, but chalk plays that we talked about that we like getting to. And it's also you're taking up a lineup spot in the very first game of the entire night. So CP3 is playable, but he's not somebody I have very much exposure to. How about for you, Spencer, Chris Paul?
Yeah, I have like 5% currently. I think that he's a fine play. It's a great matchup against Detroit. Maybe a little bit of blowout risk there, but not, something I'm all that concerned with. So definitely playable.
All right. I believe that we have answered all of the questions. Going to double check to make sure no super chats came in late, and we've got like 30 seconds to go into lock. As I'm saying, this might already be a lock because of the delay we have on YouTube. So guys, stick around. But if you aren't, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel on the way out. Neil and I are about to talk about prize picks. We're going to talk about any kind of late breaking news that comes in. Also, a couple of Discord questions that first came in. This one, Marky Mark. Who would be your preferred play for FanDuel, Jeremy Grant or Kenyon Martin? Jeremy Grant.
Yep.
Tall Tale, you ish big doggy. He was adding me there, so there we go. Tall Tale, appreciate you. Any other questions? 3, 2, 1. We got Yancey J, or was it Y? Johnsy Y was counting down until we get to lock. So, Neil, is there anything really quick as we head to lock? Anything that we want to talk about before we get into some of our post lock stuff?
We're waiting on some news with these questionables. I think you've said pretty over and over. You've covered pretty well that you kind of want to push back some of these players. Like if it's a toss up between one player and another, just waiting for the later player. I think that is good advice. We could go over some of the ownership of some of these guys that just locked.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, nothing, no real, nothing else that we need to talk about for post.
Yeah, I'll download the CSV in a second. And then I think we also just had a super chat that came in. Or am I? No, never mind. My eyes are messing with me here. It was a Discord question. We got a couple of them. One is our guy MJazz24. Is that the same question he asked us the other day? This was fun. He asked us this last night. Who scares us the most that we don't have? He says that on FanDuel it is Giannis for him. It's funny. Do you remember what MJazz's answer was yesterday?
Was it Tatum?
It was Tatum who had like 0 points and 1 rebound at the end of the first quarter and totally sucked. So whatever it was you were concerned about, those got alleviated fairly quickly. Before today, the player he's most scared of that he doesn't have is Giannis. For you, Neil, who is the player that you don't have a lot of exposure to that you're maybe shitting your pants a little bit about?
Let's see. I currently have 0 Kawhi and that locked. So I guess that scares me a little bit having 0 Kawhi. Always a little bit concerning. Who else do I not have much of? Currently don't have much Dame. That scares me a little bit. Paul George also, I just did not play much from that game. I pushed it back a little bit. I only ended up with 3.9% Chris Paul, which I was actually hoping to get above the field there at 6.6%. I wasn't trying to get much above the field, so I think I'm okay with that. Yeah, I think probably Kawhi and Paul George, the scariest.
Yeah, I'm going to download the CSV and let's see if these guys are popular. By the way, if they are really popular, I'm happy I don't have them, but it would also be scary at the same time, you know?
Agreed. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm downloading the CSV right now and we'll see what some of those ownerships look like. But off the top of my head, who scares me that I don't have? I'm pretty happy with my lineups, to be honest. I mean, I still have a lot of flexibility as well. I have Giannis exposure though.
I ended up getting 0 Zubats, so I'm going to throw Zubats in there.
Okay.
I just my final crunch. I apparently didn't get any, or maybe this is. Maybe I'll. I think that might have been a crunch that I did not get in time, so it's still possible that I have some Zubats actually.
So here's one actually. Trae Young is fairly cheap on DraftKings. He's $9,300. If Trae Young ends up playing, I would be a little concerned that I don't have a $9,300 Trae Young. Now, if he's in, I can make some pivots to get to him later, but yeah, if he ends up playing, I would definitely want to have $9,300 Trae Young in a game that has a 231.5 total, which is the second highest on the entire slate. So that's somebody who would be like, I probably should have had him if he ends up playing.
Yep. I did get 1 Zubats lineup, so not completely dead if he has 100.
There you go. I would prefer him to not have 100.
Me too.
All right. Downloading the CSV right now and also just have my eye on these Discord questions. Lippy wants to know Josh Christopher on DraftKings. I did not play Josh Christopher today.
I did. I think I played some. I think he's definitely in play at least, just because of the lack of bodies there. Let me see how much I have. He's not like a huge priority for me. But
Jalen Green's back. That was something that was a definite detractor for me.
Yeah, I currently have 14.5% Josh Christopher. The field's playing 22%, so I'm below the field by a good amount, but I have some.
So one more question to get to, and then Jacob, we're going to look at the NBA Bet Pro over on Stokastic.com. We're going to look at the Prize Picks tab. So we're going to go to that in a second here. But first, some ownership. Neil, we've got only 2 players projected. We only have 2 players who are over 10% owned in the $15 on DraftKings for the slate that just locked. Could you guess who they are, or have you already looked and cheated?
I have not looked yet. I would assume based on his night last night that Isaiah Stewart got there.
The most popular projected, well, not project. I keep saying projected because I'm used to looking at ownership as we're talking about it during the show and say this is what they're projected for. No need for a projection. We know what it is. Well, I can tell you he's projected for 14.89% ownership now, and I feel really sharp about it. But Isaiah Stewart, the most popular player from the 2 early games. Can you guess who the second most popular player was?
That's a lot tougher for me. I'm trying to think if we didn't have any like sure great plays here. Maybe Chris Paul.
It is DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton projected. I did it again. 13.85%. That's my personal ownership projection. Who knows what it'll be, but that's my guess. 13.85. So yeah, those are the only two players north of 10% owned. Isaiah Stewart, 14.89, Ayton, 13.85, and then Randall was behind that at 8.33. So not a lot of ownership in the early games. Looks like a lot of people like myself were reserving roster spots for the later games. And we got Dr. 2-inch in the Discord chat. Dr. 2-inch, he had a question
every time you read that name.
Yeah, well, I got Dr. 2-inch. He's got a question only for yourself, Neil. He wants to know who the Neil's nobody is. He wants to know who's the guy who's projected for very low ownership today that is still remaining on the slate that you think has considerable upside. So I think what we set the parameters for sub 10% owned. Who's the let's pick out, and I'll do it as well. It'll be a Greg and a Neil's nobody.
Greg and Neil's nobodies. Okay.
Yes, or nobodies.
Let's see. Who did I play a lot of? So Vooch already locked, so that one doesn't count. I mean, I'm above the field on Steph Curry. I don't know that you can call him a nobody, though. I mean, both of us, we talked about Daishen Nix as a guy that, and then I saw somebody in chat saying, I'm a Rockets fan. I wouldn't play Daishen Nix if he was the only player available. Yeah, I don't have a ton of confidence in Daishen Nix, but they have a limited rotation here. He should get some minutes. He scores, 0.7 fantasy points per minute. We're projecting for 31 minutes. So he's still just a decent play just based on playing time. Şengün, if you can count him as a nobody, he's coming in under 5% ownership. I like him quite a bit. I'm giving a bunch. I should let you interject here. Who's your nobody?
Yeah, so my nobody is, all right, I'm gonna try to go back and forth between this and my actual ownership. Yeah, so for me, sub 10% on player that I'm overweight to is DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan is that's the Greg's nobody. I like to say Jimmy Butler's the nobody of the day, but I'm playing him and he's also popular. So it is DeMar DeRozan.
I would also say Jalen Green is somebody that I'm trying to get above the field on. He's going to under 1% owned. So which again, we don't think that's going to hold, right? I think that we talked about that a little bit. It'll probably come up a bit from there, but somebody, and actually I like the call out of DeJounte Murray. I wasn't really thinking about it that much. So he is somebody that, now that I think about it more, I'm like, yeah, I mean, Trey does seem like he's a real questionable, right? Like, do you think that it's about 50-50 that Trey plays?
I do. I think he's very live to sit today. And the thing that's kind of scary about it, going back to what M Jazz had asked us before, is if Trae Young is out, I want to play a whole bunch of DeJounte Murray. But if Trae Young's in, I would want to have Trae Young in my portfolio more than I do right now.
But we have a lot of Jokic, so
yeah, that's true. That's me having a lot of Jokic would make it very viable for me to pivot.
Do you like the way I go back between Jokic and Jokic? Like, I just can't decide how to pronounce his name. It's been going on for many years now. I know it's Jokic, but then it's Joker, and that throws me off.
It's a soft J, like Yagin.
Like Yagin.
Yeah, like Yagin. Soft J. And then one more question that we got here in Discord. This is from Richie, 07G, so our guy Rich. He's asking, did Elon also ban Eric from the show? So no, Eric has only been banned from a few things. He was banned. He's back on Twitter now, but he was banned from Twitter. He's on the no-fly list, so he can't fly. That's the reason he hasn't been on the show. He went to a wedding in who the fuck knows where, one of the Dakotas, north, south. They should just be one. Who gives a shit? They don't need two states. So he's in one of the Dakotas. He's on the no-fly list, so he's stuck. He can't figure out how to get back. And then, of course, as everybody knows, he's not allowed within 100 yards of any schools. So those are the three things Eric is banned from. He's not yet banned from the show, though. He'll be back at some point once he figures out his travel situation. But yeah, right now, as far as I know, he's not banned. He's been banned on other occasions, not from this one. I don't wish Eric the best, but he'll be back here eventually. Let's start looking at the Bet Pro now. So Jacob, right? We don't know. We're not all that familiar with him yet, but we'll make some assumptions on how to pronounce the name. I should have asked it. That's my fault. I should have asked before. I've just been assuming he's a Jacob when he could have been a Jacob the entire time.
The whole time.
The whole time. I've just been calling him the wrong name.
At least we know he plays on DraftKings.
Yeah, he's new. He didn't want to say anything about it. But yeah, Jacob, bring up the NBA Bet Pro, and we're going to look at some of the Prize Picks options here because Prize Picks is the sponsor of our show. And I know a lot of people are playing over on Prize Picks. And what's nice about it is PrizePicks operates in pretty much every state that doesn't have legalized sports betting. So it's another way that you guys could just play some player props. We've got projections for it. So if you sign up at PrizePicks, mentioned it before, use our link below, and that is going to get you 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. But let's say you're like me, you're in a state like New Jersey where you have access to sports betting and you can't play on PrizePicks because that's the situation me in New Jersey. I could play on BetMGM, play DraftKings, FanDuel. I could bet there, but not on PrizePicks. We've got you guys covered with an offer as well. Because if you sign up at BetMGM for the first time using our link, you are going to get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, as well as a bonus bet of up to $1,000. So if your first bet loses, you're going to get a bonus bet for up to $1,000. And we've also got our tools over at Stokastic.com that can help you build out some PrizePicks cards. So NBA Bet Pro, we're going to be looking at this right now. And Neil, do you have this open in front of you?
I was just pinning what you want me to open PrizePicks?
Oh, no. I was just wondering if you had the Bet Pro projection in front of you, because I
don't currently.
Okay, all good. I'm gonna read off some of the ones that I liked the best today. So for starters, Bam Adebayo is an over/under of 9.5 rebounds. Got him projected for double digits. In our projections, we actually have him at 11.2. This is something I also bet earlier today for DraftKings purposes, but the same line's available over on PrizePicks. 9.5 rebound prop. We've got Bam Adebayo projected for 11.2, and like I was saying before, this is one of these regular season type games. There's a little bit of heat between the Heat and the Bucks. Bam Adebayo, as is, has been playing extended minutes. As long as he avoids foul trouble, I think we're looking at like 37, 38 minutes from Bam today. So I do like the over 9.5 rebounds. One other one that stands out to me, Alperen Sengun. He has an over-under of 6 assists. It's a big number. He's been exceptional lately. But as we've been talking about before, Neil, Jalen Green is back. So with that in mind, under 6 assists for Sengun, I think that makes a whole lot of sense, because that's just a big number to expect him to get to when you also pair that with the fact that one of the highest usage guys that's going to have the ball in his hands a bunch is back in the mix. So you see recent games for Sengun, he's had 4 assists in back-to-back games. Now Jalen Green's going to be back taking the ball out of his hands. So that's another PrizePicks pick that I like. So those are my 2 for the day. Sengun under 6 assists. And then I like Bam Adebayo for over 9.5 rebounds. Corey Shea has left us a super chat, Neil. I think you're going to like this one. He says that Neil would whoop Eric's ass. Hashtag facts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I wouldn't because I'm nonviolent. But like, would I? Yeah, of course.
But Eric could anger anybody.
Could anger anybody? Yeah, absolutely, he could. Eric is he has height on me, but I've got just weight on him. I've got a lot more weight than Eric.
How tall are you?
5'11".
Okay. Yeah, Eric,
so like a real 5'11". I don't just like say that. I would round up to 6 feet if I were rounding.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I think that makes sense. Although, are you just saying that because you're really 5'10"?
Exactly. Who knows?
Yeah, it's tricky. That's one of these things with the internet. So I'll say this: Eric is very competitive. I've mentioned this before, but we were playing basketball, and this was before Neil was with us full time. But when we were in Chicago and Eric was playing basketball, I'm telling you, he was not happy that he got his ass kicked by Jay Carr. He was not happy about it. So he's very, very competitive, Eric, and definitely not a fighter, though. He's an actor. So I would not be taking him in a fight really over anybody. I'm trying to think, like, there's not a single member of the data team that I think Eric could beat up. I
can't think of anybody. Projections, data.
Yeah, nobody.
I can't think of.
Neil could whoop Chuck Norris's ass. Oh, look at that.
Wow. That's a high compliment.
I mean, who's tougher than Chuck Norris? When's the last time you heard a Chuck Norris joke?
It's been a little while. Yeah, I can't say that I've heard one in the past year.
Yeah, Chuck Norris doesn't read books. He just stares them down until he gets the information he wants.
It's good.
Yeah. That was a good joke format back in the day. I guess Chuck Norris isn't relevant anymore. How old is he?
80 would be my guess. I don't know.
Chuck Norris. Also, I don't like what's a Chuck Norris movie? 82, by the way. What's the most recent Chuck Norris movie? I'm not even that. I know him from jokes and memes. I don't even know him from his acting.
I can't think of a single Chuck Norris movie that I've watched.
All right, Chuck Norris movies. Are we just gonna get flamed for this and people are gonna call us idiots?
Probably, yeah. I mean, he's like one of the most famous actors of his generation, and I can't name a movie I've watched.
That's just so he's in The Expendables 2. That's not really a Chuck Norris movie. That's just a movie he happens to be in. Way of the Dragon. That was from 1972.
Oh, Walker Texas Ranger, Eric Johnson points out. That's maybe what he's best known for. I never watched it.
Yeah, neither did I. And the other thing too is yeah, I mean that was so like when that series run, I was like 3 years old when that show was on TV, but that was
Yeah.
before my time.
Yep. I mean, I'm older than you are, so probably people my age watched it, but I'm also not actually that big on like action in general. Like I just like big action movies where it's just action fighting throughout doesn't really interest me. It's got to be like that can be, it can include, like, I'm not opposed to like violence in shows, but it's just like I need plot as well.
Sidekicks, people are saying sidekicks. If there wasn't a UFC card tonight, I would absolutely smoke weed tonight and just watch some of these movies. There's no way any of them are good, right? Like, are these? Could chat tell
No,
us?
none of these are
Emac's
good
probably the
movies.
best source of this. Emac could let us know if this was. Obi-Wan saying Delta Force was lit. Jack Swales, Chuck Norris fought Bruce Lee. For real though, or like in movies?
Does Stream Elements, is this like a timed thing where like on the hour, every hour we get a thing from Stream Elements saying only guy worse than at Sean V? Because I don't even know like who it's about or like when it kicks in, but just like occasionally I've seen this several times today. Only guy worse than at Sean V from Stream Elements.
That's got to be a news god thing. It's got to be. It's got to be him posting from over there.
Okay. That's funny. I don't even know what
Uh,
Stream Elements is.
it's something that's not. So here's what Stream Elements actually is. People could watch this on Twitch, right? So we're primarily, most people are watching on YouTube, but Twitch, we do pick up 100, 200 people watch on Twitch as well. So Stream Elements is a bot that takes the Twitch comments and throws them into the YouTube chat.
Okay.
So people just watch on, but here's also why it doesn't make any sense. People are watching on Twitch and bad mouthing Sean V when Sean V is only in the YouTube chat.
Yeah. But it
Unless
shows up in the YouTube chat.
does Sean V just transcend the internet? Like he just shows
Muscala
up
is
on all
starting.
platforms?
See how it says Muscala is starting.
Yeah, we just got the OKC starting lineup, which is Giddy. Oh, great. Aaron Wiggins is starting. SGA, Giddy, Wiggins, Jalen Williams, Muscala. It's hard for me to give a shit about the OKC starting lineup. It changes so frequently, and the starting lineup is so not indicative of what the minutes are going to be.
Yeah.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 17 times in the same season, Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
Not going to go after your
I
starting
felt pretty
lineup.
hard for the Isaiah Joe start on, I think, Wednesday. I think 77% Isaiah Joe. He was a late addition to the starting lineup. I felt really good about it. Jokic likely to play.
Nice. All right.
Aaron Gordon likely to play.
All right. This is good. So I'm going to play, by the way, just all of the Jokic. Jokic is my favorite play on the slate right now. Give me all the Jokic against Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a great play.
We got a super
does this
chat.
Muscala news do anything for us? Like, does it? Who was I playing from OKC? Nobody at center.
SGA probably, maybe some Giddy, but I mean, I can't do anything with these low cost guys. Like Aaron Wiggins is starting, right? And Aaron Wiggins has had a handful of decent starts for OKC. He also has games like the other time where he started 2 games ago, Aaron Wiggins. Here's what he did. He played the entire first quarter. The entire first quarter, didn't come off the court. Wiggins played all 12 minutes. By the end of the third quarter, he had played, I think it was 16 minutes. And then he just played some like garbage time run at the end of the game. The starting lineups, it just doesn't mean a lot for OKC because of the way they run the rotations.
Yeah, Muscala. I don't know. He's a 0.88 fantasy points per minute guy. Is the only reason I'm like, I mean, if he does play.
Recent starts from, actually, here are all the starts because there's a handful of them. Muscala this year has made 4 starts, 20 minutes per game, 17.6 fantasy points in those starts, the individual games. I played him in one of them, went really well. That was the game against the Washington Wizards on January 6th. He played 24 minutes. He scored 27 fantasy points. His other starts, 16 minutes, 15 fantasy points, 23 minutes, 13 fantasy points, 16 minutes, 14 fantasy points. And once again, in his starts, he's made 4 of them. He's averaging 20 minutes per game.
Yeah, and it's unlikely that you see 30 minutes from Muscala. I mean, he could spike just from a points per minute kind of standpoint, but if he were power forward eligible, I think I would have interest. He's center only. Makes it a little bit tough.
So we've got some time to react here because I know we're going to be done in about 9 minutes here. But there are no games that start at 7:30 Eastern time, or
Yeah, yeah.
you're 6:30 your time right now, right? 6:20.
Yep, yep.
So we've got some time until the next game's locked, but that'll give us a little bit of time to react to Jokic being in. I'm playing all of the Jokic. I just want to get to him as much as I possibly can. But what are you going to be doing with Nikola Jokic? And heading into lock, he was only projected for 15% ownership over on. Let me refresh the ownership. I think we had Jokic at 15.6% on DraftKings, and on FanDuel only 7%. Those are numbers to be overweight to, in my opinion.
I'm with you. Yeah, I like him quite a bit because he was ruled in late and people don't like the Q tag, and it's a great matchup with Atlanta. There's a lot of reasons to like Jokic.
We got some more super chats here. And anybody else anybody else from the Nuggets that you like getting to here outside of Jokic? It's Jokic. It's just really Jokic for me.
Yeah, if one of these guys had been out, then I would have more interest. But with both Jokic and Aaron Gordon available, I'm gonna lower my Jamal Murray a bit. I'm only have 3%, so I guess I'm okay with that. I'll have 3% Jamal Murray. I mean, it is a good matchup for all of them. So I think 3% Jamal Murray seems about fine. That's below the field though. So yeah, no priorities other than Jokic.
All right. Big boy IE. Please go position by position one last time. So, all right, now that we've got some stuff updated, right? We've got some more news and we kind of have a better idea of what's going to happen, especially Jokic being in a big one. Let's once again just recap position by position, Neil, and who we have the most of right now. And for me, at point guard, it's still Gabe Vincent and Spencer Dinwiddie. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's Spencer Dinwiddie number one for me, then Gabe Vincent, Tyler Harrow.
And then shooting guard, Vincent and Dinwiddie also shooting guard eligibility, but Max Strus added to the mix as well.
Yep, the same three I mentioned, Max Strus, and then I mean Daisha Nix also for both of them. I've also got 13% Kobe White taking some shots there.
Small forward, Josh Green, Tim Hardaway, where I wanted to be contrarian. DeRozan was a small forward, contrarian option. Also, power forward eligibility for DeRozan. They end up being overweight too, so that's a little lesser owned one. But Josh Green, Tim Hardaway, two chalk plays that I do like at small forward.
Same.
Power forward, who else but Jimmy Butler? And now because I'm trying to get to more of Jokic, that lowered my Giannis exposure. So Jimmy Butler is the guy that I'm getting to the most at power forward.
Yep, Jimmy Butler, Trendon Watford, Dorian Finney-Smith, and then Isaiah Stewart for me.
And then center, Nikola Jokic. Talking about it before. Loading up on Jokic at center. He's my most rostered player on the entire slate.
Yep, me also. I have 50% Jokic currently, followed by Bam, and then Watford and Eubanks. I actually have more. I know I said earlier I like Eubanks better than Watford, and I'm more over the field on Eubanks than Watford, but I have slightly more Watford than Eubanks currently.
All right, let's see. Any other super chats? I felt like we might have had one more. Yeah, Ryan Houston says he played well when we played him. Yeah, it's true. The one time that I was on Mike Muscala this year, it went well, but I feel like it was fluky. I think I got really lucky that night. I remember it was a whole big thing where I was very excited. I live tweeted the entire Oklahoma City Thunder game. I was the only one watching it that night. I was tweeting about we had was Red Panda performing that night? Because I always like when you're watching NBA League Pass and you get to see the in stadium entertainments. For whatever reason, they don't run commercials during it. They do it on occasion, but you generally get to watch whatever's going on in the stadium. But it was good. We had like all the best entertainers were going on. Oh, I know what it was. The halftime show. It was the biggest piece of dog shit I've ever seen for the OKC halftime show. They had a guy who was doing a solo broadcast by himself. He was streaming on like a BlackBerry. So his camera was blurry. You could barely hear him because he didn't have a microphone. And he was in like a closet. It was some guy. He was like in his 60s. He could not have been less interesting. He was doing a solo halftime show from a closet by himself. That was the halftime show that OKC had. And I loved every second of it. That was a good game. And Mike Muscala was decent. Everything worked out well that day. Nice. Super chat from Corey Shea. Chuck Norris doesn't wear rubbers because nothing can protect you from Chuck Norris. Yeah. Shouldn't it be the other way around though?
Right.
He doesn't need to protect himself from himself.
Yeah. It's a little bit confusing for me. I was thinking the same thing. Feels a little bit backwards.
Chuck Norris does so. Oh, because I guess it's the. Yeah, but why does it Chuck Norris doesn't need to protect himself? Like For I guess I understand the kind is
I get it. I get it.
but
Yeah.
it's this is a week. I don't like this Chuck Norris one. Sorry, if anybody has better Chuck Norris ones, you can throw them into chat. That's not a good one. We got an update, by the way. That's Spencer Smith saying that was his dad. That was doing the halftime show for OKC. Was it really? I hope so.
Well done. I hear.
Emac is Chuck Norris's dad. Possible. Greg R saying I should look at the coat that Kuzma wore today. Something I can invest it in the cold. What did Kyle Kuzma wear today?
Is it better than his big pink sweater?
Kyle Kuzma has a lot of interesting outfits. Oh, it's just like a fur coat, it looks like. Kyle Kuzma wears oversized coat. You know what trend I don't like? The oversized hats. Oh,
They're
never
weird,
mind. This
but-
is absolutely absurd looking. He looks like the Michelin Man.
All right, I'm gonna look it up.
He looks like the Michelin Man. It's like a black Michelin. This isn't even. He's wearing an airbag around him.
Just say
It's
that you
good
don't
for-
understand high fashion, Greg.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good if you get into a car accident, you get ejected out of the front window. It's good because now
Oh
you're
wow,
protected. You got this.
yeah, that is something.
Yeah,
Very cool. Very cool.
yeah, he looks really cool in that.
Greg, I want to ask you, how much Josh Hart do you have
Mm,
on DraftKings?
let's see. So Josh Hart, 15% right now.
Okay, I currently have 24%. Scares me after I played him and he bit me last time out. He's not like I didn't do anything to get more of him. That's just based on his projection. He projects well for 5,200.
Yeah, so one thing I'll say too about Josh Hart, though, particularly with Yusuf Nurkic being out, it's a pretty good spot for him. Like he's generally a really good rebounder and he plays really well with Nurkic off the court. He just kind of sucked the other day. I'm like I'm not too concerned about that one game.
Yeah, no, I think I'm okay with it.
Nathan Hansen, Dinwiddie and Young, or Jokic and Bruce Brown for a DK GPP. So I love Jokic today, but it's hard for me to reason Bruce Brown now that Aaron Gordon's in, and Dinwiddie also a pretty big primary option for me. So I'm actually going to say Dinwiddie and Trae Young, even though I have more exposure to Jokic than Dinwiddie.
Yeah, agreed.
Bob Wren is asking what was Kuzma's ownership. He wasn't on the main slate, so I'm not sure. Corey Shea saying, dang, that was the top ranked Chuck Norris joke. Whoever's doing the Chuck Norris rankings lists, get out of here. You need to do a better job ranking.
Not the best ranker.
See if we had any more questions in Discord. If not, it is about time to get out of here. Oh, we do have Opposite Exo wants to know, who are my top 3 fighters tonight? I'm going to answer that afterwards. I haven't finalized my MMA lineup, so I'm going to see what some of the updated ownership is, and then we'll see. But a couple more questions, and we'll get out of here. Mod T, favorite utility play, 9,100 and under. 9,100 and under. That is DeRozan for me.
Let's see. We're talking about on
DK utility.
There's no utility. Yeah, okay. 9,100 or under. I mean, you could obviously Spencer Dinwiddie counts there, but just going in terms of projection, it would be actually Spencer Dinwiddie is the top projected player. 91. I'm assuming you already have Spencer Dinwiddie in your lineup, though.
Yeah.
Bam would be in there. DeRozan projects really well, actually. Yeah, he's one of our top 9,100. So you could certainly throw him in there. If you want to go contrarian, I talked about how much I like Vooch tonight. You could go there as a contrarian option. And then I do like Şengün 9,100 also.
Yeah, the answer for me, DeRozan. Honestly, I like the ownership on DeRozan.
Yeah, he only asked for 1, so I gave him 5. I guess DeRozan definitely a fair answer there.
We've got Lippy saying I have 0 Giannis in my lineup. Should I be scared? Yeah, you should be a little scared.
Anytime you have 0 Giannis, you need to be scared.
What's all of the Jokic? I'm getting to around 30%. That is from Min Cash Merchant. I have 90% Jokic right now. He's my most rostered player.
Oh, damn. So I think I just did an update and I said I had 50%. I actually changed my projections a little bit to get a little bit more Vooch. I am now down to 36% Jokic, which to me is still reasonable, good amount over the field.
And we have JEW. If you were to fade Dinwiddie in a DK single entry, who do you play from Dallas instead? I mean, there's a lot of guys you could play from Dallas. If you're taking Dinwiddie out, then the guy who I think is most likely to be just the highest usage guy in his place would be Tim Hardaway Jr. I like Tim Hardaway Jr. regardless. I think you can play both of them together. But if you're making a lineup that doesn't have Spencer Dinwiddie, I would highly recommend having Tim Hardaway Jr. in it.
Yep, I like that call.
All right, that is going to do it for us today. Guys, thank you very much for watching. If you haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do it for Jakob. This is the first show that he's done with us. It was nice to have him hanging out with us on Saturday night. So like the video for him as well. Guys, have a great rest of your weekend. See you back here on Monday. Curry is in.